geothermal output is coming Wednesday next week. Kaya that, kuha naman nato no, last week naman na siya. So, wala gitay laing nga data na niya. And then, we will schedule lang the one last topic na to, investment. Short na siya nga topic na to. Mo kuan ra po. Anyway, I'm free Tuesdays and Thursdays. So, just let me know on sa inyong pwede. Basta short lang ta, 1 hour lang nato ka discussion. Importante, ma-take up lang nato ang topic, no? So, within tomorrow or Thursday, just let me know any time of the day nga discussion. Pwede ra pod gabi para basta ma-take up lang gyapon na nato. And then, I will not giving an activity but rather mag-quiz lang ta sa kaninga chapter, and then for the investment 15 items, so kana lang wala na activity na i-assign. Okay, so let's take up corporation. Now, in the old curriculum, we have 4 accountings. We have accounting 1, accounting 2, which is partnership and corporation, financial accounting, and then managerial. So in your case, tulo na lang ang inyong accounting. So mani siya one chapter lang nato nang i-handle sa atong financial accounting. So this will be our objectives, major characteristic of a corporation, and then explain how to account the issuance of common stock. Ano lang no, simple ko lang na to. Let's just go through this quickly, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then 6. So ang importante nato here is you will be introduced to these terms, and I'm sure you are already familiar with some of these terms in your when you are going through the terminal output preparation this week, no? So na-encounter na ninyo ning mga words. Now, the corporation, when you say corporation, it is an entity separate and distinct from its owners, because unlike the sole proprietorship and the partnership, naagyod no, represented ang corporation, represented na siya sa, the sole proprietorship represented na siya sa owner, so that kung makautang ang tindahan, di kabayad ang tindahan, pwede mahabol ang personal property sa owners. Just like also sa partnership, if in case the partnership will enter into a contract, and then just in case there are risks involved, and then just in case the partnership will not be able to pay its obligation, the creditors will be able to run after the personal assets of the partners in that of the sole proprietor. But for the corporation, wala na siya, because the corporation is a separate entity and distinct from the owners. So that ang pwede ra gyud habulon sa mga creditors katurag yung property sa partnership. The corporation. Now, corporations are classified by purpose. You can organize a corporation for not for profit. So these are the NGO, mga NGO nato no, mga foundation. So these are not for profit yung mga corporation, and for profit also. And then these are also classified as to by ownership. There are publicly held corporation and privately held corporation. So when you say publicly held corporation, these are corporation whose stocks are being traded in the stock exchange. So just like the companies that you are studying right now, evaluating, I did download list of companies from the PSE, as to financials, as to industrial, as to manufacturing. So these are publicly listed corporation or publicly held corporation. When you say privately held, so these are corporation, normally mga family-owned business. Before, I think just recently lang ang corporation na list na siya publicly. So meaning before, these are just family-owned business ang Gaisano. So kuan na lang na siya later, basta mura during the last 5 years na lang na siya nga nahimo nga nga kuan siya nga nahimo nga publicly listed nga corporation. Privately held, you can form a corporation if there are 5 of you, minimum man siya of 5 or more people, and then you can form a corporation and apply online, and then sa Securities and Exchange Commission. So these are the characteristics of a corporation. So you have there the advantages and disadvantages. For the advantages, it has a separate legal existence. It has a limited liability of stockholders, transferable ownership rights, ability to acquire capital, continuous life, and it has a corporate management. There's a separate legal existence, just like atong it has a separate juridical entity. It is a separate juridical entity na separate from that of the owners. It has limited liability of stockholders. Mato kung gihatang example nga dili pwede habolon sa mga creditors ang personal properties sa mga stockholders. So limited liability na siya. Transferable ownership rights. Anytime you can buy stocks, anytime you can sell stocks. So the buying and selling of stocks, so this is the transfer of ownership from one public owner to another. The ability to acquire capital. In here, like for example, si Ayala, they want to embark on a business, no? Imo sila dagko kay nga mga expansion sa ilang business. Possible sources nila sa ilang capital is mag-issue sila og bond or pwede sila mag-issue og additional stock. So that's the beauty of that, because they can tap the public when they want to increase their capitalization. But for partnership, wala gyud sila source. They can contribute, or they can borrow money from the bank. Unlike also sa sole proprietorship, it's either they borrow money or they have to get it from their personal funds. So ana lang. But for corporation, they can issue stocks and then acquire capitalization from the public. It has a continuous life, normally 50 years, and then renewable na siya. Then corporate management. The beauty of that is they can hire professional managers like engineers, CPAs, and so on to run the business. That makes it favorable to the company. Kaya like for example, the owners are not, they have the money, they have the but they don't have the technical knowledge to run the business, so they can hire professional managers. But at the same time, it is a disadvantage because that way murag nahimo silang detached somehow, because they hire professional managers, they detach themselves from the actual running of the business, and that make it somehow risky, because there's the people outside the corporation looking into the business, and definitely kung dili ikaw owner, lahi ra man gyud no ang dedication sa owner running a business, or a third kanang mga outsiders running the business. Okay, so government regulations for sole proprietorship, wala man kay said ang requirement. All you have to do is file the PIR, and then requirements sa DTI. That's it. No, the only time maybe nga mo file ka is you inform kung di na ka mo stop operating na ka. But for corporation, you are required. There are reportorial requirements. You need to file monthly, quarterly, annually. So daghan kay siya kuan mga reportorial documentations required by different regulating agencies by the country. And then of course additional taxes, because aside from paying the tax, corporate tax, then by the time you distribute dividends, the one receiving the dividends will also be again taxed as part of their income. So man siya additional taxes. So twice matax ang ang although ang corporation will only be taxed once sa income tax niya, but katong iyang distribute nga income, that will be taxed again. The stockholders receiving the dividend will be taxed again. So that's make it a disadvantage. Whereas kung sa sole proprietorship kay isa ramang ka, whatever income nimo, that will form part sa imong income tax, that you will be taxed once. Just like also the partnership, the moment you distribute the income, it's not the partnership, but rather the partnership that will be taxed by BIR. One time lang siya. So this is a typical org chart of a corporation. At the top of the org chart, you have the stockholders. One is the stockholders. Moment siya ang tag-iya, no? Generally. But among the stockholders, they have to elect the chairman and the board of directors. Normally, ang chairman mo, ni siya ay katong pinaka-highest of kanang number of shares. Mo na siyang ma-elect as chairman. And then, from among the board of directors, it's the board of directors that will hire the executive, the executive officers. Your executive officers, you have your CEO, and then you're the VP, vice president for marketing, finance, operations, HR, and then you have your general counsel or secretary. This is your legal, no? So, and then under your finance, you have your treasurer and the controller. So, typically, maoni siya for a big corporation. But for small corporation, medium scale corporation, maybe the corporation that we have here in Cebu, just like sa the company I've worked with before, small corporation, family-owned business man to siya. We have the general manager, and of course, we have the stockholder kay kuan man siya kanang family-owned business. And then we have the chairman of the board and the board of directors, under which nandain dito ang president. And then, or the general manager. So, under niya, we have the operation. Wala may VP. We have operation. We have finance. Ako ang finance. And then the marketing was done by the ang function ani niya for the marketing, ang nag-function ani niya ang general manager, but we have one engineer working on the costing and so on, no? And then we have human resource nakita kami siya sa among mother unit namo. We don't have our own human resource, but for the hiring, screening, and so on, we do it by kami lang. But for the formal hiring na, we have that sa among HR, but it's not within our organization. What I'm saying is that for smaller organization, you don't have all this. You don't need to have all this organization. Basta ang importante, you have one person, maybe an HR staff, a marketing staff, but definitely you should have an operations. Kaya mo man na siya focus sa mo man yung pinaka-kuan. And then for the legal, you can have a retainer. And then for the treasurer, you have the controller. So we have the finance rolled into one. So ingon ana siya ang kuan. Ingon ana ang function. Then the financial, then under me was also the purchasing. So depende na siya, no? So ingon ana siya ka kuan when we run a very small organization, we don't have this one. But what is important is we should have people doing all this activity, but not necessarily a clear or an organization na nagyud ka na kay HR, na kay operation, na kay accounting, ang clearly defined na siya. But that is supposed to be the ideal one. But in actual, you need to have people na manigingon nga multitask imong mga tao. So, siya importante diha. You need to have people that can multitask. So what I'm niingon ani man ako, no, because I'm sharing this one because later on when you do your feasibility study, you can somehow maybe scale down. Kaya mo man na siya makita na mo during the feasibility study. You have vice president for kuan. So pag abutan na niya karong mo na sa costing tag-as na kaayo kay you're hiring a vice president but your business is only very small and yet you're hiring a vice president. So my point here is you can scale down your kuan, you can scale down your organization. But what is important that there are point person na muhimuan. Okay? So that's the organization. Now, forming a corporation, in our case, we have the SEC, no, the Securities and Exchange Commission, man siya SEC, no, Securities and Exchange Commission. What we will do is that we go online, a website of the SEC, and then we apply for. Okay, the first step yun. We apply for a name sa ato ang corporation, and then the moment makalusot na to siya kay every time you log in, you type the name mo, return dahil na siya kung ano, kung kana take na na siya o dili pa, then moingon ana siya nga approve, okay for ako ana siya, okay for registration na siya nga name. Then once ma-approve na yung imong name, you can go through the system and then you are given 30 days to complete the process. So within the time frame, you have to submit your articles. Yeah, naman na siya sa online. All you have to do is download the form and then fill in ra gyud na pre-kuan na siya di na ka mag-worry sa mga naming sa kung ano, kung saan na nimo pag English sa imong articles kay naa na siya dito. All you have to do is tailor fit na lang nimo sa imong organization. And then download nimo and put in all the necessary information, and then within the 30 days you need to submit all the necessary information. And then capitalization is depende na siya sa industry. Unsa nga klase nga industry ang imong i-put up no nga business. Kay kung like for example, bangko na siya, di pwede nga 1 million lang ang imong capital. But there is a business, di lang ko kakuano unsa nga klase nga kuana siya, but what I'm saying is that for a 62,500 worth of money in the bank, you can now form a corporation. So how is that? Like for example, if the business requires a minimum capitalization, minimum 1 million, so what is required by SEC is that 250,000 of that, or 1/4 or 25% of 1 million should be subscribed, meaning dapat palito na siya, no? Subscribe. And then out of the 250,000, 25% of that should be paid, no? Subscribe lahi ang paid. So 25% of that will be paid. So katong 25% of the 25% should be deposited in the bank, and then treasurer's affidavit will be prepared and attached. Maghatag ang bangko certification nga there is such an amount deposited in the bank. So meaning from 1 million multiplied that by 25%, so that's 250. And 25% of that should be paid, no? Paid na siya. So 62,500. Then minimum anak niya nga number of people that should incorporate is 5. So meaning if there are 5 of you, 62,500, for a minimum of 12,500 na contribution, you can now form a corporation. So mahimo na mo, you can appoint from among yourselves the president, the vice president, the treasurer, the secretary, o kinsa pa to siya nga kung ano ang kailangan nga kuan nimo nga sa audit. So you can now print a calling card. Ako'y president, I'm the president of so and so, I'm the vice president of so and so, a secretary, the treasurer, and so and so. So ingon ana lang. For a 12,500, actually kamo from among you people, you can form a corporation if only you have 62,500 in cash i-deposito ninyo sa bangko. So that's how it is it is being done. 62,500. But again, depende na siya sa kung sa type of business ang inyong i-put up. Okay, so stockholders' rights. These are the stockholders' rights. Vote in election of board of directors. One vote, one share of stock is one vote. So yun ana na siya. Then the share the corporate earnings through the receipt of dividends. Sa sole proprietorship, we don't distribute we don't distribute dividends, but it's only in corporation we distribute dividends. Cooperative, we distribute dividends. Now, as part also of the right of the stockholder is the preemptive right sa Malaysia. Like for example, katong atong initial capitalization na 1 million. And then there are 5 of you, so definitely divided by 5. So each one of you has a 20% share of 25% ownership of the no 20% ownership of the business. 20% ownership of the business. Now, so that is at 1 million. Now, assuming you want to increase the capitalization from 1 million to 2 million, you need to the corporation, our law protects the right of the existing owner. Now, it will remain to be at 20%. So meaning, by the time you increase the capitalization, dili pwede moingon si kuan nay maghari-hari nga isa moingon nga naamo ko'y kwarta, so himo na tong 2 million ang atong kapital pero ako na tanan ang additional 1 million. So mahimo ng 50% iya and the rest will be magbahin na lang sila ang katong upat. 1 million naman 1.2 million naman ang iya nga. 1 million 200 no. So ingon ana ng iyang kuan, so dili pwede nga kuan ingon ana. So everyone has the right to retain its share of ownership. So the only time na mabaligyan na sa uban if mo decline ang katong member. So, ano siya ang preemptive, has the preemptive right na ma-retain niya ang iyang shares na ma-retain. However, because somehow na ay mga it limits the issuance of new capitalization, a number of companies have eliminated the preemptive rights. So depende na siya karon sa corporation kung dili na nila i-exercise. So there is that residual claim. So the residual claim is whatever left after if and when the business is going out of business, ibaligyan niya yung mga properties, and then definitely the properties will be, if ever the properties will be sold higher than the book value, so mas higher ang iyang liquidation value, less payment to lenders, so whatever is left is the residual claim. And the stockholders are the rightful owners or claimants to that kanang residual claim ang stockholders. Issuance of stock issue considerations. Isa man na siya sa mga kanang mga pila may atong dapat i-authorize. So definitely number one basis of the authorized capital stock is the requirement by SEC. Depende sa imong kind of business. Of course, kung bangko, dili enough ang 1 million na higher ng ilang capitalization na require. So that will, the kind of business somehow will dictate how much capitalization should be needed. But of course, next na question niya is how much is the par value? How are we going to value the per share of stock? So man na siya maging next na issue. So authorized stock is that it is stated in the charter indicates the amount of stock that a corporation is authorized to sell. Muna siya authorized stock. Then okay, so this is an example of a stock certificate. You have here the shares. Okay. You have here the shares, the name of the corporation, stockholder's name, and so on. So isa ni siya ko So kining 100 here. So ang pati pasabot ani niya ang ilang issuance of stock is by the hundreds. So it's not 99, it's not 1, but 100. Kay mura kung mo issue ko kag stock 1, mura ang $1 dili ra enough to cover the cost of your printing of the certificate. So dili ra siya enough. So it should be all depende na sila multiple of 100, multiple of 200, so depende na siya. Issuance of stock. Companies issue common stock directly to investors or through an investment banking firm. So like for example, si Ayala, magdugang gusto siya mag-increase sa iyang capitalization. So si Ayala will contact a bank and then si si Banco, si bank mo na karoy mag-process sa tanang all documentations, mag-imog due diligence, and do everything, no? So that by the time kuan na siya, the 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 buying public will also be sourcing the the transaction will be course through the bank. Like for example, sa San Miguel Corporation, murag ang ilang kuan ana no is the RCBC. It could be RCBC and some other banks na pwede iba't diha nato mapalit ang ilang shares of stock. It could also be ang bonds. Gihapon na siya, no, it could be through RCBC. But I know for a fact because we have no as a family, a couple we have an existing kuan sa San Miguel Corporation. We bought some bonds and also some stocks, so something like that. So through RCBC. Now, factors in setting price for a new issue of stock. So actually, this 1 to 5 is somehow a very technical siya nga process because this is the work really. These are the works of financial analysts. Kanang makita nato sa mga movie, yun na sa mga stock exchange, yung mga investment banking corporation. So mo sila yung mga trabaho ana nila, magkuha na sila, maghimo na sila, mag-gather sila data and then process statistics para maka-come up sila of numbers. But typically they are basing this information from this 5 company anticipated future earnings. Like for example, last 2 years I think nag-IPO ang Dito, then that was selling like hotcakes. Kay murag ang iyang par value I think sa dito is 1 peso, but it was sold at the highest of 18 pesos. Just imagine, no? 1 peso ang par value pero ni-sell siya as high as 18 pesos. But right now, parang 3 pesos na lang ng iyahang market value. So yun ana ang pag-dive sa dito because of the performance of the company. Madungog pa nato dagan siya reklamo. So that's number 1, no? Anticipated future earnings, expected dividend rate per share, current financial position, I think, because reported ang mga company ni Uy, nagkalugi. So mo na siya, nag-impact siya sa market value sa dito. The current state of the economy, it could be global, it could be, of course, karon nato global man ang kuan nato impact sa atong economy because of the war in Russia na naka-impact siya sa kanang supply of oil. Mo na naka-impact na po tayo nato globally sa economy. The current state of the securities market. And then, if we go back to number 2, expected dividends rate per share. So normally, mo na siya pinaka-simple nga mo na siya pinaka-simple nga computation. So I would like to request somebody to compute for me. Can I request Renalyn Faura? Renalyn?
Yes,
Renalyn.
Miss.
Okay, so like for example, let's go back to, like for example, San Miguel Corporation, on the last 5 years, ang iyang dividend rates per share, mo na siya iyang dividend rate per share niya is $5, no? 5 pesos per share. And then expected rate niya, I mean, ang growth rate ang kuanday nato no. We say ang average growth rate of dividends per share is at say 10%, no? 10%. Mo na siya growth rate sa dividends rate niya, 10%. Then based on current, ang iyahang gihatag nga dividend is at 5. So we expect nga next year will be 5.10% pila man. 5.10 pila 10% of 5 pila. 10% of 5 that would be
0.5, Miss.
0. So may 50 centavos, no? So meaning we expect na next year 5.5 550, no, 550 ang dividends sa anak nga ko ani ka expected dividend rate per share man nga to. So meaning next year it will be 550. Now so that's our projection. Now kung ako karon ako yung mupalit moingon ko mo matter na siya no individually unsa na iyang unsay appetite sa katong mupalit sa share. Like for example, moingon ko nga okay na sa ako nga mo ginansya ko my rate of return is 10%. So please compute ko no 5.5 divided by 0.10 0.1 pilay imong kwan ana niya pilay amount nga ma-result nimo
55 miss
55. So ako I'm willing to buy sa Ayala stocks at 5.5. No, kay ingon man ko nga I expect to receive 550 next year. And then my expected return is 10%. So pwede na nako paliton 55 pesos ang Ayala. So that's no money akong basis. Then here's another kuan also kanang investor mingon siya dapat ang akong return is 15%. So yun ana siya ka 15%. So 5.5 divided by 0.15. Paki-compute. Pilay amount
36.67
so investor P willing ra niya paliton ang kuan. So that's the amount na he is willing to buy. 36 something. So, naku difference no. Nag-differ siya because ang iyang expected rate of return is higher. Ang 5.5, that is only 15%. That is 15% to him. So, that willing niya paliton ang stock at 36. So, kung ako karon si Ayala, ibaligyan niya sa kuha ako ang ihang preference. So ingon ana ang ano kanang buying and selling diya sa online nga market nato. Ingon ana siya. So kung ako'y mobaligya, ako gyud siya ibaligya sa highest bidder. Right? So ato na ko siya really na ko siya ibaligya sa highest bidder. So ingon ana ang maging ano so that si kuan karon si katong investor B definitely moingon siya di mo siya kapalit kay wala may mobaligya sa iyaha. So definitely, iyang pamabaan ang iyang expected rate of return. So, mo na siya tinakon. If you look at the stock prices, mag-differ na gid na siya cents na gid na siya. So, because of ay mo play naman din ha ang kanang supply of demand and supply. Mo play na siya din. So, ingon ana ang but inana siya ka simple ang atong computation but I know in actual so daghan kay siya kay just imagine by the minute na siya mag-change ang kuan kay depende man na siya kay number of people in the mag-interact sa kuan sa market. So man na siya din ha kay kung lower ang imuhang you are willing to buy it at 35 walay mo baligyan nimo ana. So kailangan patas-an nimo siya ang imong kuan imong bidding price. So man siya motivat sa putya. Alam ni. So current financial position and so on. So this 1 to 5 mo siya trabaho karon sa kanang mga financial analyst paghimo sila kuan ng mga computation and so on. So that's how the market price of the stock inaana siya pagka-set up. You cannot just dictate, no? So meaning ang kuan ang kanang mga kuan di cannot dictate kay ang market man ani ang mo dictate. Okay. So market price of stock of publicly held companies is traded on organized exchanges. These are interaction between buyers and sellers. The interaction kuno between the buyers and the sellers determines the prices per share. Mo to akong i-shoot ako earlier na kung inana ka 55-35 so kung inana ang inyong extreme ang inyong kuan so dili na siya it could be dili ka kapalit. I mean, kung ikaw sub, that's you're too, on my case, I'm too, kanang taas, bubuor kaya kong expectation so that ang uban na mag-compete na siya, ang uban sa mag-compete, dili naman sila kapalit, no? Dili naman sila kapalit kay taas man ko. So, ilang pong patasan ang ilang ilang patasan ang ilang quotation, ilang bid price. So, mo na siya din karon nga the interaction will somehow set the price of the market price. Mo na siyang ang movement anak niya kung ano di kayo maglagyo. Okay? So that's how the market price behave. So this is a typical example of the isa man ni. Nagkada ikakuan mo. What I want. Pwede mo kong isa? This one. Mga unta. Mga unta. So what you see here, mo ni share ko ano, how this is on the New York Stock Exchange. On the 52 weeks, if the high was quoted at 79, the low was quoted at 52. So that's at 52 weeks. During the day, the volume traded was at 2.9 million, as high as 77, as low as 76. And at the closing time, it was quoted at 76.78. So makita nato no, di kayo lagyo ang kuan niya, ang iyang variation. But looking into the 52 weeks, diha nato makita from 79 to 62. So that's how it behaves. Now, par value. When we say par value, determine the legal capital per share that a company must retain in the business for the protection of our corporate creditors. So that determines kaya naman kayo authorized number of shares, multiply that to your par value that sets the legal capital required by SEC to protect the corporate creditors. So there are no par. But if there are no par, the directors may assign a stated value to no par shares. Okay. Now, let's go to the stockholders' equity portion of the balance sheet or the corporate capital. The corporate capital has two sources. You have your retained earnings. So retained earnings, these are your accumulated earnings, and less net of dividends. Plus the other one is the paid-in capital. So the paid-in capital, there are two sources: the common stock and the preferred stock. Common stock and the preferred stock, and then the common stock, the preferred stock and the common stock. So this is the common stock account, the preferred stock account. This is the value based on the par value or stated value. Then in excess, this is where masulod din sa paid-in capital and excess of par. Like for example, the par value of the common stock is $1. Then the market price is 2. Gipalit siya 2. The common stock, the basis of the common stock is the $1, and the excess of $1, mo ni siyang masulod diri sa excess of par nga account. Okay? So, mo ni siya ang atong presentation. So, you have here paid-in capital. So, there are two sources, paid-in capital and retained earnings. So, you have here common stock and then the retained earnings. Now, in the owner's capital account, there's only one capital account magita nato no, kay we learned nga at the end of the period atong i-close ang katong income to the owner's capital account. So makita na lang nato at the end of the period is the owner's capital. Pero ang corporation, it will be all earnings minus dividends will be reported here in the retained earnings account, and all contributions of capital will remain at common stock nga account. So muna siya kalainan. Kaya sa proprietorship, ang income i-close tanan sa owner's capital, but in the corporation, it will remain in the retained earnings. Okay? accounting for common stock. So kanilang atong kuanon para makita nato ang ihang so in here, like for example, si Hydroslide issues 1,000 shares of one par value common stock. So ang problem ani niya na siya nagbaligya siya og ano 1,000 2,000 shares of stock. Ang 1,000 share are issued for 1 per share, and the 1,000 shares are issued for 5 per share. So mo ni ang ihang entry nato, no? So the company received cash of 1,000 man, and then ang credit niya is common stock nga 1,000. 1,000 shares times 1, 1,000. On the next nga transaction, baligya gihapon siya the same 1,000 pero nabaligya niya at 5. So that please always remember na we always credit the common stock account based on the par value. So in this case, 1,000 giyang pagbaligya, so multiplied by 1, so 1,000 ang atong gamiton sa common stock. In excess of the par value, in this case here 1, ato siyang i-charge to this account, paid in capital in excess of par value, which is 4. So mao na siya ang so this is the presentation. You have here paid in capital, then retained earnings, then our details sa paid in capital. You have common stock, wala siya 2,000, so meaning 2,000 naman ang atong na-issue nga stock times $1, mo na siya 2,000. And this is the 1,000 times 4 nga nabaligya nato. Mo man siya nga stock nato nga nabaligya nato of 5. So 1,000 of that will be reported here, and the 4,000 of that will be reported in the account in excess of par. The total paid in capital, and then retained earnings, and total stockholders equity. Paid in, kay kini gi-assume ba ni ang kuan man ni siya nganong paid in man kay kuan naman ni siya nabaligya ana nabayaran na sa na-receive na sa corporation ang cash payment. O not payment, not necessarily cash, ang payment. So, paano siya? Now, the stocks can be issued also for services or non-cash assets. Like for example, here in the organization of the corporation, you need the services of lawyers, accountants, and so on. Also, you pay organization expenses. So in this case, instead of paying cash, you can pay the organizers number of stocks. So in this case, bayaran siya 4,000 shares. So times 1, 4,000. So that in excess, remember, ang cost of service is 5,000, and then nag-issue siya shares na 4,000. And this is 1, so this is 4,000. So the 1,000 is the in excess of par. So that's how it is to be presented. Stocks can also be issued for non-cash asset. Like for example here, the corporation will need land. So mingon siya mag-negotiate siya. Okay, we will use your land. You become a stockholder for 10,000 shares. So in this case, ang ihang par value is par niya is 5, no? So 10,000 times 5, 50. So that the difference of 3 will be credited to paid in capital and excess of par. Basta always remember class na ang common stock gamiton ra gid nato siya based on the par value. And then in excess of that will be charged to paid in capital and excess of par. So we're done with common stock. Aside from a common stock, the company can also raise can issue a preferred stock. Unsa may kuan sa purpose of preferred stock? They want to increase capitalization and not distort the ownership of the company, the percentage of ownership of the company, because the ownership, I mean these kind of stockholders don't have the voting rights. So somehow these stockholders will not influence the running of the business. Kaya ang iharag yung kuan ani mo potential capital with a promise with a of receiving the dividend. So mora na siya ang nindot ani niyang preferred stockholder because you have the priority to receive dividends and then you have the priority in receiving asset in event of liquidation. But the downside of this, because you don't have the voting rights. Now, accounting preferred stock is just like also common stock. So, recognition preferred stock based on par value and paid in capital in excess of the par value. Now, another term that we need to understand also is what is a treasury stock. A treasury stock is a corporation's own stock that it has acquired from shareholders but not retired. So may puti pa sa bot ani niya. Nag-issue no na gipalit na sa public, papalit sa public. Now the company may reacquire this stock and that will term katong na-reacquire nila nga stock are termed as treasury stock. So how will this be presented? Like for example here, money siyang kuan. Prior to reacquisition of stock, this is the balance sheet, no? You have here paid in capital, then common stock, 5 par value. Remember, money siya ang kuan, no? Money siya ang presentation. How it is presented, common stock, onya 5 par value. Then what follows is the number of shares authorized, 400,000 shares, and then 100,000 shares issued and outstanding. So meaning, kanang 400,000 shares mo na siyang authorized capital stock. And then out of the 400,000, 100,000 shares are issued and outstanding. So meaning, napalit na ni siya, no? Na siya sa public. And then, let's go to the next illustration here. On February 1, Konom Mid acquires 4,000 shares of its stock at 8 per share. So that the entry will be you debit treasury stock, then credit cash, kay gibayaran man naton. So that the presentation will be this, no? Take note of this. 400,000 shares, mo na siyang authorized, then 100,000 shares issued and outstanding. After the reacquisition of the treasury stock, mo na siya ang iyang wordings here. 400,000 shares authorized, 100,000 shares issued, then 96,000 na lang shares ang outstanding. Because the difference here of 4,000, mo na siya ang treasury stock. So that in here, what will be reported, mo rin gihapon, no? 100 times 5, mo na siya 500. But below, you deduct the treasury stock of 32,000. Balance rin gihapon ang atong accounting equation here because on your left side, you deduct 32,000 from cash. And then at the same time, you deduct 32,000 from your stockholders' equity. Anong i-deduct ba nato ni? Because this 4,000 shares is part of this 500,000. Mo man na siya diha. So, mo nang ato ni siyang i-deduct. Giri-acquire lang nato siya. Okay? So, dili na ta mo kuan ani ni mo discuss. We issue dividend. Kuan na siya kanang characteristic na siya sa corporation na mag-issue siya og dividend. So types of dividend can be issued are cash, it could be property, it could be stock, it could be scrip. So kung scrip is a promissory note to issue dividend in the later part, in the later date, at a later date, no? So normally, ang i-issue gud ana niya is cash dividend. So these are the requirements for a cash dividend. It should have adequate cash, dapat ang company. So that if they may have an adequate cash, but they may have a planned expansion of the company, so that they have to conserve cash para i-finance ang expansion. So what they can do is instead of declaring a cash dividend, they will declare stock dividend. So just like here, naa pa man siya ko ano, naa siya for 400,000 nga authorized, niya ang na-issue pa lang niya is 100,000 shares. So there's a difference pa nga 300,000 nga that is good for kuan pa na siya no, up for the public. So katong diha niya pwede kuhaon ang iyang stock dividend from the 300,000. So no need nga mo issue siya og cash, pwede ra siya pa-issue og cash stock dividend. Now, so dividend is for common stockholders and preferred stockholders. For preferred stockholders, preferred siya na siya preference, na siya priority. Now, there are the preferred stockholders may be cumulative, non-cumulative. So, unsa man na siyang cumulative? Like for example, cumulative dividend, unsa man na siya? Like for example, in 2019, okay pa to no, kapag may COVID. Pagka 2020, affected ang business, so wala siya nag-issue ng dividend. Pagka 2021, wala siya nag-issue og dividend kay down gyapon ang business. Pagka 2022, mag-issue na siya o ano siya, mag-declare na siya dividend. Since cumulative man, ang ihatag dapat ni company to the preferred stockholders will be those na wala niya na-release sa 2019, 2020, and 2021. 2020, 2021. Dapat on the 2022, pagkang issue niya dividend, ihatag to niyang 3 years because that is cumulative. So, mo na siya ang benefits sa mga preferred stockholders. For the common stockholders, wala na siya, no? Kaya, depende rin na siya kung sa'yo mabilin. Wala na siya i-issue nga dividend sa common stockholders. Okay. Now, stock splits. So may purpose ani niya, issuance of additional shares to stockholder according to the percentage ownership, reduction in the par or stated value per share, increase in the number of shares outstanding, reduces the market value of shares, no journal entry recorded. So, ibot kasabot ani niya. Like for example, kanina ang atong kuan is 400,000 shares ang iyang kuan authorized. Kung stock split na siya like 2:1, mahimo na siyang 800,000 ang iyang authorized capital stock. But at the same time, ma-divided by 2 pud ang iyang par value. Kay gi-increase man nato ang number of shares, mo reduce pud at the same time ang iyang par value per share. Yun ana ra ang iyang the purpose of this is they want ko if ever usually mag-stock split na siya kung mahal na kaayo ang market value sa stock. Dili na siya affordable sa market. So mag-stock split na sila para madaghan ang number of shares, and then that will become available to the public. Like for example here, unsa man siyang i-illustrate niya diri no, for kuan siya. So 10 shares, pila na siya 40 shares, mahimo na siyang 1 2 3 4 times 4 times 4, pila man na 40 80 160 na no times 4, so inuna na siya 40 times 4 160, mahimo na 160 shares. But the price per share also will be cut into 4, divided by 4, I mean. How it is analyzed? Okay. Di na tawag ko correction of error. This is accounting ko na siya, accounting concerns. Okay. So, this is a full presentation of a balance sheet. Stockholders' equity. So, stockholders' equity, we learned that there are 2 sources of capital here. you have the paid-in capital, and then the retained earnings. Under your paid-in capital, you have your capital stock. The capital stock, this is based on your par value, and then another component is your additional paid-in capital. Kato ni siyang in excess of par value. So in here, you have capital stock. You have two classes of stock. You have the preferred stock, and then you have the common stock. For the preferred stock, there's 9%. Unsa man ni siyang 9%? Meaning this is the rate of dividend nga ang ma-receive ani sa preferred stockholders, 9% of 100 par value. So yearly, the preferred stockholders will receive $9. Una siya pasabot. In here, yun siya, par value, then cumulative, so meaning add on, no? So depende sa number of years. And then callable, so meaning to say, anytime, pwede paliton sa Grabber Incorporation ang kanyang preferred stock at 120. So gipalit ni siya at ang par value ani is 100, and then later on inipalit nilang balik will be at 120. So then 10,000 shares authorized, 6,000 shares issued and outstanding. So out of this 10,000, 6,000 shares lang ang na-issued and outstanding. So man is siyang 6,000 times 100, man na siyang 600,000. So, dali na to siya ma-check, no? Merely looking at this, 600,000, niya kabaluta nga, ang iyang par value is 100, so 600,000 divided by 100, kabalo dahil nga 10,000 shares na siya, 6,000 shares ang issued and outstanding. Pag abot ka rin sa common stock, no par, pero stated value niya is 500,000 shares authorized, then 400 shares issued, and then 390 shares ang outstanding. So meaning, 400 shares, 390 ang outstanding, so 10,000 of that napalit na sa treasury stock. So that, again, dali na po nato i-check, 400,000 shares times 5, so manisya dato ang ato capital stock is 2,000. And then there is a stock dividend of 50,000. So kung 50,000 divided by 5, that is, kuan pila man na siya, 50,000 divided by 5, so that is, kuano, 1,000 shares. Yeah, that is 1,000 shares na stock dividend. So that's your total capital stock. And then you add on your additional paid in excess, then total paid in capital. Okay. Then you add your retained earnings, the total paid in capital and retained earnings. Then at the bottom you deduct your treasury stock. Then so that your total stockholders equity. So mao na siya. So analysis, return on common stockholders equity. So in here, what you will do is net income, assuming walay preferred stockholder. So okay na siya, no? Net income lang tadayon. But if there is a preferred stockholder, you need to deduct first the preferred dividends. Ay nato ma-compute ang atong return on common stockholders equity. You divide that by average stockholders equity. Anong average man? Because your beginning and ending differ man gid na sila, so kailangan nato i-average. Then that's the amount, that's your basis in computing return on common stockholders equity. And then book value per share, total stockholders equity divided by number of common shares outstanding. So dili na siya karon average, but rather end of period yun the number of common shares outstanding. That's to compute your book value per share. Kaya kung ano na siya, ending man yun na siya nga mga numbers. So that's your book value. Okay. So I think we covered all about corporation. So we'll be having our quiz. Terms lang, walay mga it could be na gamay lang nga competition, pero simple kuan lang nato. Kung sa lay atong na-cover, na-discuss nato this afternoon. I will not be giving an activity, wala na. But Swiss lang for to cover this kuan. Now for the investment, please let me know when can we meet. Tuesday, this week lang Tuesday or Thursday. So makamita Tuesday or Thursday para makakuan ta sa investment, then we are done. Then we can meet each other na next week for the presentation of your terminal output. Okay? So question people? Hello? Questions?
Wala ra, miss.
Okay. So that's it. Kumusta naman ang status sa inyong kuan project? Okay ra? No problem?
Okay, miss. Nasugdan na, miss.
Dapat nasugdan na ninyo kay next week na. Sige. So that's all. Let me know ha kung kano sa ta mag-meet for the investment. Nindot ako within the week para next week wala na mo ikot na unaon. Okay? Bye.
Thank you, miss.
Okay, sige.
Thank you, miss. Bye, miss.